Hi, welcome to Freezer Meals 101. I'm Sharla.
I'm Christie. Today we're going to talk about preserving our herbs. But we're not going to just dry them because this isn't a drying channel. This is a freezing channel. So we're going to show you how to freeze herbs today. And we're going to take a tour of my herb garden at home and Sharla's herb garden behind us.
I have been raving about this herb garden because it's the only plants I can keep alive. I even sometimes grow flowers in there because I can.
I came in one day and I'm like, are those snapdragons? She's like, yeah. It's great. You can't eat them, but you know.
But I can't kill these things, which is amazing. And so I do rave about this. So we've been getting some questions on the channel about my herb garden and how I use it. And so we thought we'd take the opportunity to walk you through how I use my herb garden. And I do have a system. I've had it for 2.5 years now, or 3 years maybe.
She's a pro.
And so, yeah, I'm getting there. Like, I have a system. Mm-hmm. But since we're doing that, we thought Christie is a real gardener. Like, she can keep actual plants alive.
I do. I can.
And so we thought, you know, she'll walk you through her real herb garden, and then we're going to teach you guys how to freeze herbs. And there's actually quite a few methods. So we're going to go through those.
You can do what works for you. We're going to go on a field trip. Where do you want to go first? Do you want to go to my herb garden or do you want to do your herb garden?
I think we should go visit your herb garden first.
All right.
This is kind of tough to shoot today because the sun is so bright. It's a beautiful day here. It's, I think, 17 or 18 degrees, which is going to be probably high 60s in Fahrenheit. This is my herb garden. It's not as pretty as Sharla's, but it's mine. I've got rosemary, thyme, parsley, and I had some basil here, but it's done for the season. And then my oregano. The oregano's done to seed already, so I'm a little bit behind, but you know what? There's still lots there I can use. Hopefully the wind doesn't pick up too much. Oh, these little foxtails. Each one of these is a seed, and they go everywhere. Normally in behind here, I have some dill. I have like one remaining dill left, but I've already used it, so it's gone. And normally I have sweet peas in behind there, and they climb on a bit of a trellis, but they are done for the season as well, and so they've been pulled out. I will probably keep one of my parsley plants and let it winter. I will keep my oregano. It winters well here like a weed. Actually, I'm going to try winter all of these. I'm not going to pull them out. The basil I did because it won't winter worth a darn where we are. To winter them, I'll cut them back to probably be a few inches tall and just load up leaves and mulch in there so that they are protected. And where this is at my house, it tends to kind of be loaded with leaves anyway, so it collects in this corner. So I think I'll have a problem with mulch. It's a lot different than doing it in Sharla's kitchen. So I've got just my snippers. These are Fiskars. And I'm going to cut it back to here. And these pieces that have the flowers on, sorry, but I'm just going to do that. And I'll keep this guy and put it in my bucket. For those that are interested, I live in an area that is a zone 3, 3A, 2B if it's further out. The city of Edmonton is a 3A, and we're a little ways out of the city of Edmonton. We might have been bumped up to a 3B. Go global warming. Growing up, you know, we don't live in an area where it's easy to grow plants. You have to have some skill and some luck. And I'm in part of a lot of gardening groups, and I've had friends that have moved from the UK, and they're like, I thought growing plants was so easy. And, you know, they come here and they're like, it's a little bit difficult. We have a short growing season. You know, we can't grow sweet potatoes here, for example. We grow the vine as something that's pretty that we use in our arrangements and pots, but we can't grow a sweet potato. We just don't have a long enough growing season. It's a wonderful place for farming. There's a lot of wheat, a bit of corn. Further south in Alberta, there's more corn, but you do see it here. And but I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a mixed farm where we had our own gardens. We grow our own food. My mom canned and froze things, and we picked wild berries, and my dad farmed, my parents farmed, and we had cows and chickens and pigs before I was born. And my parents also ran an egg farm before I was born. They had 1,500 laying hens, which is pretty small potatoes compared to the mega farms these days. But it was good to grow up in a way that we were close to our food. We understood where it came from, and we knew the hard work that went into it. So I place a lot of value in being able to do something like this. And Sharla having her little bin, her light stand and her little herb garden there, she finds such value in that because she doesn't have much of a green thumb, and we do tease her about that sometimes. She definitely has an appreciation for those herbs. Here's the funny thing. I wasn't even entirely sure I was going to harvest this. I was just going to cut it back, and then she said, you know, we're going to do a video on freezing herbs. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably a good reason for me to go and take care of these and do them. So about the parsley, I got this herb packet from a fundraiser for my daughter's school. I ordered it last spring. And this parsley is the super curled leaf parsley that you see in restaurants used as garnish usually. The parsley that you buy in stores is Italian flat leaf parsley. And so I don't use this parsley a ton for drying, but it'll still work. It'll still have the parsley taste. And I do normally dry my herbs instead of freeze them, but we're going to try freezing them this time. So we'll see how it goes with the parsley. So parsley obviously gets big and bushy. I've had it in like my garden before, but I hadn't planted it in this spot before. Actually, when we moved to this house, this is all rocks. And rocks are fine. They look okay as long as you can keep the weeds out. But over time, you get vegetative stuff in there and it composts, and the weeds are going to come anyway. So I am slowly getting rid of the rock, and I will turn it to something that I can produce or I can enjoy floral wise. As my kids are getting older, I find I have more time in some ways and way less time in others. Teenagers, man, they have social lives like people that don't realize that other people have to drive them places, especially when you live out of town. But they do help. My son was the one that came and cleaned out my sweet peas for me here a few weeks ago. We had a cleanup day. So, and it's funny, I kept my tag in case I didn't know it was going to be parsley. Like, good grief, are you kidding me? But some of it's old, some of it you can see there. Oh, see, I have more weeds. Some of it's old and brown. It can go. I won't use that. But it does need to be cut back, I think next year. I have 2 plants here. That's a lot of parsley. Am I really going to eat that much parsley? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to have that much again next year. I might take one of those out. So here's, you can see where I had my basil and I pulled it out. Basil is, it's almost like growing roses. You look at it wrong and it's like, I'm wilting. Basil's temperamental. But Sharla always has basil because of her little indoor gadget. So I find that basil is never really too far away. Lucky me. That's it for parsley. Nice knowing you guys. See you next year. Oh, look at that bucket of parsley. It's like overflowing. I have 2 ice cream pails full of parsley. That's so funny. Okay. Let's look at our time here. It could be better. I think that's I didn't really realize how scrunched it was in there. And I think that's made my decision for me. I am going to pull out my parsley and find a new home for my parsley because, oops, I got some rosemary in there. Good thing they're easy to tell apart, hey? Rosemary looks like spruce trees, and parsley looks like teeny tiny leaves of nymphs. And I'm just gonna chop it, give it a haircut. We want to keep a few inches in there. It's gonna help collect the snow over winter, and it'll give the bugs some place to go for winter. And we need our bugs, don't we? I've seen lots of daddy longlegs coming out, and the last bucket that I took into the kitchen, I set it down on my cupboard in the kitchen, and a little springtail jumped out and it hopped across my counter, and I'm like, well, sorry, we got rehomed today. I didn't catch him. He might find his way out again before he croaks. Poor guy. Oh, you guys are watching this, but do you know what you don't have? You don't have the smell. Oh, oops. There, we don't need dead parsley in with our thyme. Oh, it smells so good. Oh my goodness. All right, rather than go inside and dump my thyme, because the rosemary is so easy to tell apart, I'm just gonna put it on top in my bucket, and I'll separate it when I clean it. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take these inside, I'm gonna clean them. Whew, rosemary. Oh, do you know what? I don't like the taste of rosemary a whole lot. Like, people have rosemary potatoes, and I just think they're kind of but I really like the smell of it. Isn't that funny? Some of these are like little tree trunks. They are thick. They like this spot. So I'm glad I changed it from rocks to something more interesting. Ooh, here's a sweet pea blossom that's all dried up and didn't get blown away. In case you're curious, this is east facing for me. That's why I like to put my sweet peas there. It doesn't get too hot for them. By the time the sun gets around the corner, they're not going to cook. Okay, so look at this poor thing. It's dill. I'd used up all my dill already, but I still had a straggler. And it still smells so good. It smells like dill. I don't do any pickling or anything, so lots of times I just dry it and save it, or I give it away. If you're going to take the time to pickle, I will give you some dill, and cross my fingers that you'll thank me by giving me some pickles. So something I've been thinking of doing lately is vermiculture. We compost here. We have a really great recycling and composting system in our area. And at the time that it was built, it was state of the art. It was unbelievable. It's getting quite old now, and it probably needs some upgrades. But we have a really good composting system, and you can put anything in it. They have enzymes that they add that allow for the meat and muscle and grease and stuff to get composted. But if you're just doing it at home, you can't put that kind of stuff in your compost. You want to just use your vegetation, your brown vegetation and your green, plus your coffee grounds and your eggshells and stuff, and some newspaper. But I wasn't that diligent at doing it. So I've been recently, I use our county one, and I'm happy with it. It is a really good system. But what I've been recently thinking about doing, and maybe we'll do a video about it, I want to set up vermicomposting. And it's when you have red wiggler worms and you add them into a bucket, basically, with a bit of dirt, and you start adding your scraps. And so, you can add in the dead stuff, but you can also add in the green stuff, like your carrot peels and apple cores, and it'll feed the worms, and then they poop out black gold, not oil, the other kind of black gold, which is the worm castings, and it's really, really good for your soil. And that's my plan. So maybe I'll do a video about that if you guys are interested. Let me know. Now, if that's not the world's ugliest chive plant, I don't know what is. It's way past its prime, obviously. I don't even know if I'll cut any today, if it's going to be worth it. Let's have a look here. Well, it hasn't given up, though. It's sending up a new bloom. I think all the bees have retired for the year, so they're on their own. I've divided this so many times. I'm sure I've given some to Sharla in the past, and I'm bad at coming and deadheading it before it goes to seed. And so look at, I don't know if you can see it from there, I have all these little fresh chives and grasses. It's so funny. In the past, in this flower bed, I've also grown tomatoes. Usually I have really good tomato plants, and this year we got hit with a late frost and I lost all of them, and it was just at a time in my life when I was really busy and I didn't go and replace them right then, and so I did not have tomatoes this year, and I do miss them. I only do 1 or 2 plants, just what we can eat, because I don't can or anything. But boy, if you haven't had a homegrown tomato, you don't know what tomatoes really taste like. Boy, are they good. So I'm getting quite a bit here. It's going to take a lot of cleaning because there's a lot of chaff, but that's okay. I'll probably divide it again. I could divide this thing in 4 and still have lots of chives next year. And then my little volunteers that are growing from the seeds, I'll just have to cut them off and dig them out and worry about more next year. There will be more. All right, that's looking pretty good for chives. It's not super cleaned up, but oh, they smell good. Now I want to make like a dip or a soup or some baked potatoes or something. Oh, it smells good. That's all she wrote. Oh, that isn't. I'm going to show you one more thing. This is my very sad mint plant. The funny thing about the mint plant is that it's what brings me the most joy in the year, because we make mojitos, like a lot of them. I don't drink alcohol, but a virgin mojito is still really good, and we make them by the jugful here. I let it freeze and I just can't recover it. I always put them in a pot because mint is another weed that you need to really take care of or it'll get away on you. Typically what I'll do, if it hasn't frozen already, where my tomatoes are, I'll pull my tomatoes out, and in the big hole that's left behind, I'll drop this pot right down into the ground, and then when it freezes, they don't die, and I just pull it out again next year. There's still a bit of green. Maybe the roots are okay. I could try it, and if it comes back, then I have it. You know, gardening is a little bit like freezer meals. If you don't know the answer, sometimes you can Google it. If you still don't know the answer, sometimes you just gotta try it. I can't describe to you how good my kitchen smells right now and how good my hands smell. Oh, look at that. There's a freezer meal. What are we having today? Sloppy Joes. And there's some buns to put them on. I had no hamburger buns, so we're having them on sub buns. Okay, there's the oregano. There is like the world's biggest bucket of parsley. My chives, rosemary, thyme, and the kitty. Okay, I'm going to clean this up. I'm not going to film it, but I will tell you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take out the fluff. I'm going to pull out as many of the big stalks that I have, and I'm going to wash it. Oh, and you're going to like this. You'll like this. I'll show you. Okay, this bad boy is the Pampered Chef salad spinner, but it also can do berries and herbs, and I'll show you why. Back to the salad spinner. So this will spin your salad, and I mean, this sucker, you press down on it and it gives her, and then it even has a brake because it goes pretty fast in there. But when you're doing herbs, they're way more delicate, or if you're doing berries, like raspberries. If you're going to freeze your berries, you want them to be dry. You want them to be cleaned. You want them to be trimmed. So you're going to take all of your greenery off, and then you're going to wash them and dry them. And this will do the job because it's way more gentle. When you put the food in there, it doesn't spin as fast in the smaller container, as it does when you have like your lettuce or whatever in the big container. Centrifugal force, right? Like it's, or centrifugal force, however you want to say it. The stuff on the outside goes faster than the stuff on the inside. So they have this smaller one. It has to fit inside there. When you spin it, it won't do it on its own. It kind of relies on the outside one to connect. Cleaned it. This is the oregano. I just went through each stem. Now, if I had a field full of oregano, I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but you saw, I had like 2 little plants. So this is a good enough scenario. You know, there's a little tiny spot on that leaf, but I'm okay. This is good enough. I did pull some of the worst offenders out, and if it was too tiny or if it was too, you know, some of them were in pretty bad shape. So I'm just giving it a rinse. I said I wasn't gonna show you me cleaning it, but you know what? This sucker is just so good. Like, look at that. Look at that in there. Sorry if my arm gets in the way a little bit here, but you just pop it on. It's a little lock here, and I just start pressing, and it just starts spinning. Can you hear that? It's so fast. So I'm gonna lock it and use the brake and take it out. And that was sopping wet. Like, that was in my sink. That's how much water I pulled out of there. I'm gonna run it again. And I'm gonna call that dry. Gosh, isn't that pretty? You can do it a couple of ways. You can go backwards and pull it like that. It just comes off. And again, I don't have a lot here. It won't take me too long to do. If I had a field's worth, I'm sure there's a better way to do it. And I'll pull these off too. I just don't have any place to put them right now. So you want to go backwards on the stem, you're going to have better luck. And I mean, if I get a little chunk of stem in there, that's no big deal. You'll notice in your own herbs that you buy from the grocery store, occasionally you get little pieces like that too. I think that is pretty good.
So now that we're back, these are what I collected. It took a long time. Here's my first recommendation. Just do one at a time. Today is going to be oregano day, and tomorrow is going to be parsley day. You saw how much parsley I had here. So this took me probably 25 minutes to clean and get ready in this bowl. And so I left the rest at home, and we're just going to do this amount today for right now. But you saw how long it took to do the oregano, and it's pretty tedious, and I'm picky, so there's not to separate the wheat from the chaff. It was a lot of work. And even right now, while I'm here looking at my chives, every once in a while I'll find an end and, you know. So there are 4 popular ways that we've found that work pretty well for freezing herbs. The first way is to chop them up, lay them out on a cookie sheet and freeze them just like that, and then transfer them into a freezer bag and use them as you would if they were just a dried herb.
Because you've frozen them flat, they're not going to stick together in the bag.
You won't have a chunk.
Yeah, that's the purpose of that.
Yes. The second way to do it, kind of similar, but you want them to stick together. This is the thyme. You saw how much thyme I had? You saw how much thyme I had yesterday, and this is what I ended up with. Thyme is a hot commodity because you don't get a lot of payoff for what you're growing. The good news is it's kind of a weed, really. If I let that, I mentioned yesterday that I might rearrange that flower bed, that herb garden a little bit. I'm gonna totally take my parsley out of there and move the thyme over and just give it more room so it's not scrunched up against the rosemary. And next year I'll have twice as much. Really, really I will. So the other option is to drop a little bit of water in here, and we're gonna do this. And then you squish it as flat as you can, and then you roll it and you freeze it like this. So on the day that you need your thyme, you can just take this out, take your tube of thyme out, slice off the end what you need, because it's not really that hard if it's got the water mixed in with the thyme. It's not going to be like cutting an ice cube. And you can just chop it and use that. So that's pretty clever, I thought. I had never heard of that kind. The other kinds are a little bit more familiar to you and I, where we're going to chop it, we're going to pack it into the ice cube trays, maybe even the Lego ice cube trays.
I have a Titanic ice cube tray, a
Lego
ice cube tray, a Lego Man ice cube tray. I do frozen yogurt in that, and I do like strawberry yogurt for the body and like peach yogurt for the head, so it makes like a anyway.
Oh my gosh.
But I didn't have enough regular ice cube trays, so I had to pull out the Lego.
Oh, you're killing me. That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to use these and we'll make it work. We're going to chop them up, put them in there. Some of them we're going to pack with water, like top up with water, and some we're going to top up with olive oil. Basil is really popular to top up with the olive oil. The best way to have preserved basil is just right in pesto, which is mostly olive oil anyway. And then you have, when you add it to the soup or you add it to whatever dish, that oil infused with the herb is in there as well. So I think the thyme would also work really well like that. Mm-hmm. Actually, any of these would, except maybe the chive and the parsley I wouldn't do in the oil.
Yeah, agreed.
Agreed? Okay, so let's start. What method do you want to do which?
So let's do chives in just water.
Can we do an experiment? Can we do chives in water and chives on a cookie sheet?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I kind of feel like loose chives on a baked potato. Are you feeling me?
Totally. When we do our double stuffed baked potatoes.
Ooh.
Video there.
We'll do a video for that. All right, you're going to see my awesome knife skills in action here. There's supposed to be a way to do it like this. All right. Oh, do you know how good my house smells right now?
Oh, of course, with all the herbs.
Yep.
Chives are amazing also for eggs. Like, we both make this recipe. It's a Gordon Ramsay recipe. It is, right? Gordon Ramsay?
Gordon Ramsay Christmas breakfast.
Totally. It's like scrambled eggs, but with whipping cream in them. Like heavy cream.
That's how apparently that's a French scrambled egg. That's how the French make scrambled eggs, loaded with butter and cream. Of course the French make scrambled eggs loaded with butter and cream.
A croissant that you grill, and you put smoked salmon, and anyway, you top it with chives, and it's amazing. And we both make variations of that now, so yeah.
Okay, fun fact. I don't know about these. We didn't measure them, but this kind of ice cube tray, each of these is 2 tablespoons.
That is interesting.
I learned that when I was making my own baby food, because I would puree it and put it in, and that way when you're feeding your baby, you know how much they're growing. I'm going to give them another cube. Okay.
It doesn't matter. It's going to end up in there anyway, isn't it?
Well, I'm going to just do the 4. Let's do the 4 with water, and then I'll just chop something else. You have nice nails today. Sharla got a manicure yesterday. She went out for an early birthday with her friend.
Ooh, okay, so my friend Holly, I'm going to put a picture in here.
It's so cute.
She brought me this hoodie that matched her hoodie, and so we went out in these nerds matching hoodies. Like
the candy nerds, the Willy Wonka candy nerds. On a shirt.
Yeah. And she brought me 80s candy also. And that was so reminiscent of, like, Holly and I have been friends since we were 9. So that was so reminiscent of our childhoods and, like, all the stuff. And so we ended up going to this kind of, like, indoor garden place that's in the city sort of near us. And there were these ladies there from a local aesthetics college, and they were giving free manicures, and they were amazing. And so they did these beautiful nails, there will be probably better photos or video of my nails when we do overhead shots of real cooking.
Yeah.
But it was super fun, and I mean, who gets an unexpected free manicure? So it was kind of a fun early birthday gift.
Yeah, that is totally fun.
So we are also going to do rosemary and parsley in our water ice cubey things.
Yeah, I'm going to chop these just a little bit more. I was telling Sharla, I wish I had brought it with me. I was telling Sharla before I got here that I have this cool Pampered Chef pair of scissors. They're old. You can't get them anymore. So in the scissor, there's a little cutout here, a big one and a small one, and it matches. There's a cutout there and there on this side. And when you squeeze it together, you can put the stem of your herb in one of those and go, and it'll pull all these off. And so you get rid of the big stem, and sure, there's a few little stems, but you know what? That's parsley too. And you can eat that. And so that was really cool. I mean, it helped speed it up a little bit. It wasn't perfect, but it sure gave my hands a rest. So really, I'm just giving this more of a rough chop. I think if I was going to dry it, I would use, you know that you can use a coffee grinder to grind herbs, and you can use, you know, a KitchenAid processor, or you can just stand here with a knife for a year and it'll be fine.
Now, for your purposes...
Now we have to get them in there without getting them in the chives.
For your purposes, you're going to want to do like one tray of all one herb so that they don't mix.
Yeah.
For our purposes, we're just kind of showing you what's possible today.
Yeah.
So we're not, you know...
I don't know. If you only have so many.
Yeah, I guess. And rosemary.
Rosemary.
You know, whenever I talk about herbs, and it's particularly rosemary, I always think of that Scarborough Fair song. Like, are you going to Scarborough Fair? Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Do you remember the one who lives there? Like, okay, I got those mixed up, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that song always goes through my head whenever I hear the word rosemary.
That is funny. Okay, I thought about this just this second as I was chopping. You could also leave, you know how these look like little spruce limbs and stuff? You could leave some whole and do them on the method, like on the cookie sheet, and then just drop it in a soup, or drop it in with your potatoes, or drop it in on top of your steak.
Or on top, yeah, absolutely. On your chicken, in your gravy. And it's so good in gravy.
And because it's hearty, like it's tough.
Yeah.
Right? You could, I think freezing it isn't going to make it wimpy like you would find with basil.
Right.
Because basil's so tender.
Yeah.
Right? Now that we have our herbs into our ice cube tray, we're going to just put water on these ones.
Okay, so I'm going to throw this in the freezer.
And I'm going to have a drink of coffee from my awesome garden mug. Speaking of birthdays, Sharla gave this one to me for my birthday last year. She got it at a cute little gift shop in Vermeer. Let's do the oregano next, and then we will take our field trip with Sharla's herb garden.
I have never grown fresh oregano.
Do you want to smell it? Can you smell it? I mean, there's a lot of smells going on in here.
That's nice.
It is nice. I want to make pizza or like lasagna, some Italian.
This would be good in our red sauce.
Yes. Yes, it would be good in the red sauce. Can we make the red sauce better?
I don't know if the red sauce can get any better.
Now, what is your experience on fresh herbs versus dried when it comes to using them in recipes? Like, a lot of times they're like, you need 2 tablespoons of thyme to equal a fresh thyme to equal like a teaspoon of dried thyme.
It's true.
Right?
When they're dried, the flavor increases.
Mm-hmm. And I say dried thyme because that's what we usually use, right? Like you go to the store and you buy it and it's easy. We do minced ginger that's in a tube because it's easier than standing here and shredding ginger. But you can freeze your ginger and shred it frozen fresh at the time.
There's someone in our Freezer Meals 101 group on Facebook who has, she's shown photos of how she freezes her garlic and ginger fresh, and she does it a few times a year. It was amazing. Like, beautiful.
Yeah. That is a really good group. If you aren't in it, you should consider joining it.
The link is down below.
There are people that have joined Facebook
just to
join the group because they like our videos. So that's a nice compliment, actually.
And it's lovely. People share so much expertise in there, and you can ask any question. And Christie and I will hop in and answer, or sometimes before we can even answer, people who know as much or more than we do hop in.
There are some serious Facebook veterans in there, or Freezer Meal veterans in there, and people are learning all the time. And just by asking questions, really.
Yeah, it's
all the time.
It's amazing.
All right, we're going to have to take our field trip to Sharla's thing right now.
This is my beautiful Click and Grow garden. There is a link down below if you want to get yourself a Click and Grow garden.
Yeah.
But
okay, tell us what you have in here.
So
obvious basil is obvious.
Yeah, now the basil is some of it is a little past its prime, and I wouldn't have left it here as long. I wouldn't have let it grow this tall, except that I wanted to be able to show it to you guys today before I harvested it. But I would have normally harvested it sooner.
It's beautiful and healthy.
Some of the stuff at the bottom is still like just gorgeous, and the smell is amazing. I have cilantro. This is going to be dill. Well,
I made a face at the cilantro, but not everybody loves cilantro.
It's true.
And it's okay if you don't.
It's true.
But
it tastes like soap to some people.
It doesn't taste like soap to me, but I still don't super love it. But I can't make guacamole without it because it's supposed to have it in it. And it just isn't proper guacamole if you don't have the cilantro.
That's true.
And I mean, if it tasted like soap, I think it would be okay to omit it.
Yeah.
But just a little, where she would maybe put in 2 or 3 tablespoons, I'll put in like
I really like
cilantro.
And like we've got that cilantro lime corn.
Yes.
But you know
I found one in the back of my freezer, my last clean out from like 2018.
Oh no.
Sorry, corn cilantro. You got pitched. Whenever it came up, I just passed it over.
So this one is going to be a pansy in 3 colors, and I'm very excited for it to bloom. But it takes a while.
Yep.
Some of these come up very quickly. It says I got something to show you. Hold on. It says on the package so these are my white snapdragons, and it says that they sprout in 1 to 2 weeks. They last up to 3 months, and it says a few other things about them, but I've found that these are quite accurate. And so some of them sprout very quickly. You can see things in days, while others take a lot longer. Now, I like to sometimes grow these wild strawberries. They're ridiculous because
they really are. And they're
this big.
Have you seen wild strawberries actually in the wild? They're so teeny tiny. I have a wild strawberry story. My mom's birthday is in the first week of July, and our neighbor up the hill, she passed away this week. She was 94. Lovely woman. Made my mom wild strawberry jam in the cutest little container for her birthday.
That is a love gift because
so much work.
So much.
And
a labor of love.
I just realized what I'm going to write in the card for the family is that little story. She was just such a special lady, so.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
My wild strawberry story is not nearly that nice. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
My wild strawberry story is just that when we were hiking and we came across strawberries in the wild.
Always nice.
There had been a bear in that area, and then I started getting concerned.
Yeah, right.
Because if there's berries and bears, and you get lost, which we kind of did.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have the best outcome. It was fine. but that's the only time I've seen strawberries in the wild. When I grow them, it is kind of a waste of a spot in my garden because it takes 3 months
to get the strawberry.
I
think when you bought the kit, it came with the wild strawberries, didn't it? And is that the only time you did them, or did you bought them again?
I bought them again because they taste so good. Yeah. And they're like that big, so you just get not even a bite. Like you just get like a taste. But I love it. I love the smell of the leaves.
And if you don't get to go to places where you have bear-infested strawberry patches, this might be your only way to ever get to taste a wild strawberry.
Right.
And that breaks my heart, that there are people that don't know the taste of a wild strawberry.
This is the way you can know the taste of a wild strawberry.
Now, is it really a wild strawberry if it's grown in a thing and it's obviously very domesticated? Yes, because the taste is there and you'll get the same idea.
Yeah, I don't know about the semantics, but
what else do you have? Sorry,
that's okay.
Are we off track?
We're off track.
I can't believe it.
Okay, so I have a system, and it's taken me 2 or 3 years to perfect this system, but I do have a system now.
Yeah.
So I have 3 things, which are basil, cilantro, and dill, which I always have 2 going at a time. So when the basil gets to be quite, well, not like when it's about this big, you know.
Pop the other one in.
Then I pop the other one in.
Because once it gets to this size, it grows quite rapidly, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And now the dill, I wasn't quick enough with, and so I don't currently have any dill that I can use.
What's this guy over here? Oh, that you can use. Is that another dill?
That's another, that's either another dill. I think it's another dill or chives, but I'm not sure. The point is that those 3, I find if I put a new one in rotation before the other one is ready to harvest and be gone, then I always have cilantro, basil, and dill.
Nice.
And I would say dill is the one I use the very most.
Okay.
Followed by basil, followed by cilantro. I have a rosemary that I put in there regularly, but then it gets to be huge.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of it, and then I just harvest it, keep it in the fridge, and I don't plant another one right away because it lasts a while for me. And now that I can freeze it, it can last even longer. Especially I like your idea of freezing it in the whole...
In the long tube.
Yeah, and then...
Yeah,
like I on his steak or whatever.
Oh, as a whole stem.
Yeah, as a whole stem.
Now I regret having trimmed all of them. You know what I mean? But
And so I especially like to have rosemary around the holidays because I do use it in my holiday gravy and in my those kind of holiday dishes, right? Stuffing, I use it in my stuffing. We have a video right there to Thanksgiving side dishes, which would also work as Christmas side dishes.
Totally.
And so we've got like stuffing and mashed potatoes and sweet potato casserole and creamed corn that is amazing. And so check that out if you want to make your Thanksgiving or Christmas easier this year.
Yeah.
But so I have certain things that I only have one of, and that would be like mint, which is really nice to pop into drinks or desserts occasionally.
Well,
it's nice.
I saw she has apple mint here, so it's going to happen pretty soon because my mint is done, and that when my mint is done, that means the mojitos are done.
Yes.
And so we need a backup.
Yeah, so we need some mint, which is in one of these somewhere. Yeah. And I usually do peppermint. They were sold out, so I got the apple mint, which I'm sure is
going to be delicious.
Going to be great. I also like to use fresh mint in salads. My sister-in-law taught me that, and it just adds like that. It's a freshness. Like it's just really like a pop.
Nice.
I really like that in salads. Now chives, I always have a chive going except in the summer because what I do is in the late winter, I take whatever one I've got growing in the late winter. When spring comes, I take it from my indoor garden and I plant it outside. And then I have chives prolifically for the whole summer.
Chives are a weed.
Yes.
I said this probably 4 times yesterday. A lot of these are so hardy. Really.
Yeah.
They're so hardy. And mint is another weed. Chives are definitely a weed. They're a delicious weed.
And so I don't have, I have a chives planted, maybe.
Oh, maybe that's what that chives is.
I'm not sure. But I have a chives planted again because it's getting cold and we can't be using the ones outside. We just use the last of them.
Yep.
And so I do have the snapdragon in this one.
Oh,
so I will have another snapdragon and the pansies. So I will have 2 flowers, but I don't normally. It's only because of the empty slot for the chives that I had space to have the pansies. Anyway, and I think this one right here is another cilantro. Because this cilantro is going to be done soon.
Okay.
And you can see that it's already starting to go a little bit.
Yeah.
So I kind of am getting to know better about when to use them. So I'll show you the pods. You can buy these. I buy mine on Amazon. They're the Click and Grow pods. Now you can also plant seeds in dirt in the pods, but I'll show you how I plant the pods and what the pods look like. So you can get them in 3 packs or 9 packs. I buy 9 packs for the dill, basil, and cilantro because those are the ones that I always have in rotation. And I buy 3 packs of the rest. I have tried a few other herbs over the years and just, kind of have settled on my favorites. But I haven't tried oregano or thyme, actually. So, there might be a time for that.
Really, the puns are endless.
So today we are going to take my basil and harvest the basil and the cilantro and put them in the oil. So the way this garden works is there's a spot right here where you can tell if it needs a water top up, and then it's a float. So it just tells you if you need water.
And it wicks it from the bottom?
Yes. And then they have these little wicks on the bottom of each pod container.
Can I pull one out?
Yeah.
Can I pull one out without wrecking it?
Yeah.
I mean, why don't I do one of these because we're going to harvest them today anyway. Oh, I've seen these by your sink.
Yes.
So these ones you clean and reuse?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you just pop the little pod in there.
Okay, and so some of them have this cover and some don't. Tell me about that.
Well, they're all supposed to have the cover.
And when they start, you put this on them?
Yeah.
So they have their own little greenhouse? The cutest greenhouse on the planet?
When they just first start, before you see anything pop up, you put this little greenhouse dome on them. And yeah, you put this little dome on them and it creates a little greenhouse in there, which is so cute. And so I often have the little domes. And
I just thought of a Halloween or April Fool's trick to play on you. I'm just going to tell you because it's so funny and cute. If you have an empty space, I'm going to put one in there with a little Lego head. And then next time I come over, I'm going to put the head on the body. And then the little feet. And then I'll take the...
As if it's grown.
Oh, it's good to be a dork. Okay.
Growing Lego. And so, so you can take this one out.
So why do some of them have these and not? Is it just a preference thing, or you lost some?
It's because I lost some.
Okay.
And then they also used to have this where you could pull them out. And so they all used to have this.
Oh, and they just broke off.
And they broke off because it's been 2 or 3 years and I use it all the time. And so I don't know if you can buy replacement white thingies.
But it seems like it's not super necessary.
It does not seem necessary. So so we're going to pull this out, and there's the wicking system, and then there is also the lights. And so the lights, there's 2 different kinds of lights. There's a grow light and so there's a red light and a white light, and one is for grow and one is for, I don't know what the other one is for, but there's some kind of, I read it once.
Okay, and this is on a timer, yes?
Yes. So the lights are on a timer, so when you plug it in, it goes for however many hours, and then it shuts off for however many hours, and then it starts again. So this is why I cannot kill these things.
I was just going to say, I have a light on mine too, and it is called the sun, and I do not have to plug it in. But I I do not greenhouse them. I do water them, and
so
but
it's a good system.
I love
for me.
this, and I'm glad for you because she takes such joy in having the fresh. Okay, first of all, the fresh herbs.
Yes,
but you do enjoy growing these things, and you're kind of proud of yourself about them. I know you are.
And I get all excited, and I feel like at first, this is really geeky, but at first when I had them, I would go over to them, and I knew exactly which was which at first, like when I first planted them, and it came with lettuce, and lettuce grows fast and prolifically. Like it was like, all of a sudden, like in a week or two, I had like full lettuce. But then we're such a huge family that it was like one person's salad. Like it was ridiculous. So I can't grow lettuce. But if you live on your own, you should absolutely grow the lettuce because it's beautiful and fun and like and it's fresh and it grows so fast. But anyway, I would go over to them in the morning and I would be like, "Good morning, my little basil. How are you doing today?" And it was like so sad. And I would be like, "Oh, you are Dell. I finally see you. I've been waiting for you to appear." And I would talk to them. And
you are not the only person that talks to their plants. No. I promise you. And it's okay.
And so I occasionally still talk to them. Like when I plant a new one, like this pansies, this will be the first time. And so
do you know what you're going to love about pansies? And I'm sure you know this, but they have faces.
Ooh,
a pansy flower has a face. If you have to use your imagination a bit, but it's there. They're talking to.
I'm excited because when the colors start to appear, because my snapdragons were white, which my husband loves white flowers.
Kind of creamy,
and that's why I picked white snapdragons.
Yeah. Get red ones next
But if it was for me, I would have like yellow, like bright. You know.
I bet you can get daffodils. I
Maybe.
wonder. No, because they'd be a bulb.
And so, okay, a lot of the flowers that they sell for this Click and Grow are edible. And you can
pansies
put them
are
in
edible.
Food.
You can. Nasturtiums are another one, but they would take over your whole thing. And they have a peppery. The flowers have a peppery taste. Mm-hmm.
So I don't eat my flowers, but I could. And so anyway, this is...
And that white snapdragon, it does say edible flower. It says
edible flower.
I totally said earlier, and I'm like, who's going to eat a snapdragon? But
apparently someone. And so if you want to take your freezer meals and like elevate them when you present them and you plate them, you could pop a little snapdragon off and put it on top. And
yeah, you totally could. And then you could charge, an extra $20 for that meal. No.
Exactly. Okay, so we are harvesting cilantro and basil from my herb garden.
I'm really excited about it. I think my advice in the beginning about doing one at a time would be good advice, especially if you have a lot. If you're just doing the little bits.
Yeah, and if you just have one of those indoor herb gardens.
Actually, you don't need to freeze them at all.
No, then you just are constantly growing them. But if you're doing it for freezing, like if you're doing large amounts because you have a large outdoor garden, then yes, probably doing one at a time and just picking like every day at such and such a time. I'm just going to do one this week, and after the week I'll be done.
Yeah, totally. I think it would be great.
Less overwhelming.
Yeah, but totally worth it. Freezer meals in general can be overwhelming when you do big batches at once. Always totally worth it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't want it to go to waste.
No.
So this is a nice way to be able to keep it for the winter and be able to use it all year round. So it kind of depends on what you're going to be using it for as to what method would work best for you.
So what kind of cook are you? Right? How are you going to be using it?
Yeah, and the suggestions are like certain things like mint, you'd want to freeze in water because you're going to be using it more in like salads or drinks. And I mean, and how cute would it be if you just did like little ice cubes where it's just one leaf of mint in the water, right? And then you could pop that in drinks. Then you use your mint, and you don't even have any chopping. I mean, easier all around, right?
Totally.
So
that would be really cute.
There's lots of ways you can freeze your herbs. Hopefully we've given you one today that you think would work well for you. And experiment and let us know how it goes for you.
And if you do this at home and you are a veteran at freezing herbs, please tell us. Oh, we didn't talk. Okay, I'm a trivia nerd. Do you know somebody told us about the celery? A stalk is the whole thing and each one is the rib. And I always just say stalk for each of the ribs, right?
Yeah.
But that makes sense. It's like having a bulb of garlic and each one is a clove.
Right.
So herbs are the leaf. Spices come from the seed.
Ah.
Yeah?
You never know what you're going to learn here on Freezer Meals 101.
You just don't. Oh, you could have laughed at me. You'll see it when you edit the video, but I'm talking about science when I'm talking about my salad spinner and centrifugal force.
Goodness, I am so lucky that Christie is my neighbor, and like I have learned so much over the years. Plus, she's a riot, so that's that's an added benefit.
I'll have a picture of her in a nerd bush, so now you have to post it. Or a nerd tree.
Oh, that's thanks for that.
That's what I'm here for.
Anyway, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us today. Check out our links below. We've got a Facebook group. We've got our club. If we haven't really talked about our club today, but we love our club.
Just go check it out.
Go check it out. FreezerMeals101.com. And make sure you subscribe and hit like.
Happy herbing.
Happy herbing. We used it as a verb.